Hey, what's up? I'm having breakfast. Just wanted to turn the camera on. Maybe chat for a little bit. Because I'm feeling good. Like, I've gotten some comments from you guys that the video that I made talking about, you know, praying for your Jehovah's Witness family to get saved while they're shunning you, like just how difficult that is. And you know, as I was making that video, I was really like, I ask God that all the time. I'm like, I can't be the only one that's in this like really weird, it's a bizarre situation to be in, because I know that a lot of people have the situation where they're praying for unsaved family. That's a common situation, you know? But the situation of like having that and they're shunning you, because usually like if you're praying for unsaved family, you can be like talking to them and like, you know, sprinkling little gems to them, like trying to, and you could at least like show love to them, right? It's not like you're trying to manipulate them into being with Christ or something. Like I've talked about before, that's not how God operates, and that's not how we should operate either. Like, we should just love people. And you know, my motive for wanting my family to find Jesus isn't anything other than I want them to go to heaven. I want them to be in heaven with me. That's what I want. And in case you're wondering, I'm eating oatmeal. I got an oatmeal and I got this coffee. It's like a coffee banana cacao smoothie thing. And all of this was like $6, which if I got this in America would probably have been at least $10. Because I don't even think you could get a smoothie for less than like $4 or $5. I don't know though. It's hard. And I don't like arguing with God. And like, not that I'm arguing with him, but you know, sometimes I'm really like questioning him. And I'm like, you love my family, don't you? Because if I love them, I mean, they hurt me a lot. They did. They have hurt me. The shunning alone, you know, just thinking about that, it's been extremely painful. Because like, I have had instances where my car broke down. I have had instances where I was injured. I have had instances where it was an emergency situation and I didn't have anyone to reach out to. Most people take that for granted, I think. Like, taking, being able to just call up your family or even ask them for advice, you know? Like, when I was in my relationship with a narcissistic husband, I don't know if they would have been able to really help with that one, but just little things like that, like not having your mom's advice, not having your dad's advice, you know? It's really hurtful. It makes you feel like a worthless person. And I do think some of it is God's protection. But at the same time, I'm like, even other than the shunning, you know, my family has hurt me, like I've talked about, in my childhood. There were things that were painful that and a lot of it was the religion, honestly. A lot of it was growing up in the uber controlling Jehovah's Witness cult. But a lot of it wasn't that. A lot of it was trauma and generational curses and things like that that trickled down through my mom's line, through my dad's line. Things were taught to them that were toxic. And for how many generations? Like, I don't even know. A lot of generations. Generational trauma is real, and generational curses are real. And they're very detrimental because, you know, my dad certainly wasn't growing up with hugs and I love yous and all this stuff. And then when it came time for him to have his kids, why would he tell us he loves us and give us hugs? He never had that. He didn't know about it. And this is why I don't have kids. Because I'm not going to do that. Like, I want to make sure all of this crazy stuff is healed because, I mean, it's weird to me too that people will do like a split one way or the other. Because for me, I grew up not having that, and it like shone a light on it. And I was like, I need this. Like, I always felt it lacking. And wanted touches, wanted cuddles, wanted love, and wanted to hear that, wanted to feel it and see it. But then you have people who go the opposite direction and they like just carry on in that same manner, and they're like, don't touch me, I don't want to be touched, I don't want to hear, you know, don't get all mushy with me, which is very strange. It's very strange, and I wonder if people who are like that, like my dad even, one time, like we were really going through a hard time, and I came up, I think I was like 13 or something, and my parents were gonna get a divorce. It was kind of like it this time, except for they didn't end up getting a divorce, but we moved out of our house, all of us kids, with my dad. And he was struggling a lot with that decision though, and he was going to leave me and my sister and just take my brothers, and we begged him to take us too. I didn't want to be there in the house with my mom at all. She was really going through some crazy stuff and like doing shoplifting, and I've never been close with my mom ever. And I wanted to be very early in my childhood and stuff. She just rejected me. I mean, she just did not really take to me. And I kind of just was like, okay. Whereas my dad, it was different. I don't know. My dad, me and him, I always like felt like I related to him on some level, even though like he could be very mean and cruel to me. My mom was kind of cold. Like, she was cold toward me. My dad would at least talk to me. My mom didn't even want to talk to me. I would follow her around and like, nah, 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 nah. And she would just like not say anything. Whereas my dad, he would talk to me because I was there. And my dad is the same as I am. He is a talker. He's a chatterbox. I probably get that from my dad, honestly, because he likes to talk. But I came up behind him while he was doing the dishes, and I just hugged him, you know? And he was like shrugged me off. And he was like, oh God. Like, I thought you were your mom for a second. And I'm like, okay, like, dude, I can't give my own dad a hug. Like, it sucks. And my ex-husband was that way. He was like, don't touch me. I don't like being touched. And He's like, when somebody touches me, it feels like my skin is burning. I don't know, like, I kind of call BS on that one. I think it's just like an excuse or something because it makes no sense at all to me. I love being touched. I don't like being touched by people I don't know. Like, don't freaking touch me. I don't like that. But when you love someone, why would you not want them to hug you? Like, that's a very sad, I feel like that's a demonic type thing. There's something wrong there. But yeah, I'm like, you know, Lord, like, if I can forgive my family and still love them despite the struggles that we've had, I know you can forgive them. Like, I know you're not out here like holding some grudge against them. Because sometimes with content like the narcissism content, which is why also like I haven't really made much content about that, even though there's a lot of people with those traits in my family, and I've had a lot of experience, like a lot of experience. Coworkers, bosses, like my parents, my sister, one of my brothers, you know, my ex, random people on the street. Like, I have had a lot of experience with that, but I don't talk about it that much because sometimes people, I notice in those kind of videos, just lump all of these people together and they're like, the narcissist is evil, the narcissist is separate from God, the narcissist is an enemy of God. Which maybe, like, if they're a tear, maybe. And I've asked God a lot of times, are my family tears? Because I'm like, how can it be they don't have any good? Like, if I can see good, then I know that he can see good too. I just don't feel like my family are bad people. I think they're very wounded people. I think they're brainwashed people. I think they think that they love the truth, but they don't really, because if you love the truth, you seek it. And they're not allowed to do that in Jehovah's Witnesses. That's the thing. You're not allowed, literally, to look. Like, if I bring a regular, like, King James Bible to one of their meetings, they would tolerate it. They would tolerate it, but eventually they're going to be like, hey, you need to, like, if I'm going regularly, or especially if I want to get baptized or something, they're going to be like, you need to use the New World Translation, which is their Bible, which is not the Bible. There's so many scriptures that have been removed from that Bible. There's so much twisting of that Bible. And the funny thing is, like, you can use the Bible because it's such a huge tome, right? It's a huge collection of all of these different things throughout years and years and years and years by different people, which is incredible that and it's something that the Bible, like, fact checks itself, because it's like, how could all of these different authors through all of these different time spans, like, they weren't collaborating or anything, but everything, like, fits together. It's very interesting, and I think it's fascinating. But Jehovah's Witnesses and so many religions do this thing where they cherry pick. That's why they don't sit there and say, okay, open your Bible, we're going to have Bible study. Even if they're doing Bible study, they don't do that. They always have their Bible, and people call them Bible thumpers because they always have their little version of the Bible, which is not the real Bible, by the way. And I have some issues with the real Bible as well. Don't get me wrong. I do take issue with some things. There's things. And I've been looking into, because they use that name Jehovah, which is just not even a real name. It's not God's name. That is not his name. And I've prayed to God about this a lot of times. I can go on a whole tangent. And I'm like, I know I have trauma surrounding that name, so maybe it's just my trauma. I will never call God that name, though. Never. And I was like, I'm sorry, Lord, I apologize if that is your name. I just can't use that name. And that's not his name. There's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. None. Okay? That's not his name. It's not. And the King, I even take issue with the King James Bible because it has all these Jehovah's in there. That's not God's name. So I've been looking for a more accurate Hebrew translation. I found this like Sefer Bible that seems really interesting, but I don't know. I've been praying and asking God a lot, like, what is your real name? And I usually just call him Father or Papa or Yah or Abba. That's been a huge source of trauma for me because when I read that name, the fake name in the Bible, because I usually use the New King James Bible. I mean, I'm like, whatever. I know that it's not his real name. And you'll notice in the New Testament, Jesus never calls God by any name other than Father, Abba Father, my Father. He never calls him a name, so I don't think there's anything wrong with just saying Father or Abba or, you know, I do believe Yah is the beginning part of God's name. I do believe that. I don't know if it's Yahuwah. I've read that and I've been researching that. Like the Yahuwah, or some people pronounce it like Yahweh. That kind of makes sense to me, but I'm not confident enough. It's important to me because, like, for me, for example, you know, my name is Suzanne, and sometimes people think that it's Susan, and that bothers me because it's not my name. My name is not Susan. It's Suzanne. Suzanne. It's a very different distinction. And, you know, I know that they're talking to me when they're like, you know, when you get called at the doctor's office or something, they're like, Susan? Susan? And, like, you know, you're sitting there and you're, like, rolling your eyes and you're like, that's not my name. Like, you know that they're talking to you, but it's annoying because you're like, that's actually not what my name is, but okay. Like, I know you're calling for me, so I'll get up and, like, you know, not that God is like that. I know he's not, like, petty or anything like that, but I feel that it's important to be calling him by the right thing. So I'm not going to use no false names. And, like, you know, like I said, I have a lot of trauma tied to that name that I just am not going to mess around with. And even Jesus's name is not Jesus. And a lot of times I will call Jesus Yeshua, but I don't even know if I think if Father's name starts with a Yah, then Jesus' name probably starts with a Yah too. And I've been looking into it. There's Yahusha, I think it is. Let me know what you guys find, because I've been praying about this a lot, like asking God, like, what is your real name? What is Jesus's real name? And I come on here and use the name of Jesus because that's what's understood as believers, but that's a Roman creation that, again, there's no J in the Hebrew in the Hebrew alphabet. Their names were not Jehovah and Jesus or anything like that. That's a lie. And I mean, to me, it's important. It's important because why was it twisted to begin with? And, you know, I like the Catholic Church, for example, which is misleading millions of people. You know, I've talked about this before. The Pope wears a mitre hat, which is like a fish god thing, and they do all these rituals. They use all this symbolism. They're bowing down and worshiping idols. It's not what God wants. It's not what God wants. And I'm not judging people who are Catholic. I feel that they really do love Jesus, but I think they're being misled, which, if you think about it, how else would the enemy do that? He's like, okay, people are gonna, like, worship Jesus. Let's put a bunch of false stuff in there, you know, and even change his name. Let's change his name, you know, Yeshua or Yahusha, like whatever his name was. Let's change it so people are calling on the name of Jesus, which I think Jesus still honors that name because he knows in our hearts, like, who we're talking to. which is why I'm saying I'm not condemning like regular Catholic people, but they need to think deeply about this idolatry. It says very clearly in the Bible, no graven images, make no graven images. So that's an area that you're being misled. I'm sorry to have to be the one to tell you. And I'm not perfect either. But we edify and help each other when we have certain information. And, the Catholic Church was behind literally murdering so many true believers and so many followers of Jesus because they wouldn't convert to that molded system of Catholicism. And even putting in the worship of saints and all these and the worship of Mary. Honestly, I was just watching this video, them calling her the Mother of Heaven. The Mother of Heaven is a name for one of the Greek gods. Gosh, I don't remember who it was. Goddesses. It's just paganism. It's paganism, like, shrouded in Christianity. And, the following of this man, the Pope, too. There's a very good reason that I don't go to church at all. Because I just don't trust it. I don't trust churches. And God is not a church. God is not even the Bible. And people might be like, oh, like clutching their pearls when I say that. The Bible is a very important book. But Moses did not have a Bible. Abraham did not have a Bible. And if you think for 1 second, and you're so naive to think that Satan hasn't put his hands in there and changed it around. I know he has. Because like I said, the name Jehovah is not his name. And why is it in there? And when you look into King James and like that whole commission of, I need to do more research, but I'm telling you, when I moved to Japan, I stopped reading the Bible for like a good year, almost a year. Because I was like, man, I just don't trust this. And it's not that I don't trust the Bible, it's that I don't trust the translation. I don't trust the translation. And I'm really looking for like a straight up, I was asking God the other day, I was like, do I just need to learn Hebrew? Like, is that Hebrew and Greek? Is that what I need to do? I need to just learn Hebrew and Greek, I guess, because, it says very clearly in the Bible, the whole world lies in the power of the wicked one, the whole world. The devil's got his hands in everything, and we have to be the ones to discern that. And for me, in my spirit, from the things I've seen, from the experiences that I have, I'm sorry, I don't trust religion. I don't trust religion. I trust God. I trust Jesus. And I've really been seeking his face on, like, what is your real name? Like, what are both of your real names? Because it ain't Jesus and it ain't Jehovah. And maybe the church has, like, interjected these names even so we're mistakenly giving our worship to the wrong gods. I think about that too. And whenever I pray, I'm always like, my Father, my Creator. The one who created me. Because that's not the devil and that's not no false god. The one who created me. That's who I'm talking to. That's who I'm addressing. And I know I'm not the only person. There's other people who come out of religious trauma and they're like, I don't know what to call God. I don't know what to call him. And they're not comfortable calling him much of anything, just like me. And like that's where my heart is, where I'm like, I want to call you the right thing, or I'm just going to call you Father, which I think is fine. And again, I think he does know our hearts, but like I said, when you're at the dentist's office and they're like, Susan, you're like, You're like, yeah. You know that they're talking to you, so it's like... But to me, it's important, and maybe it's not that important to other people, but it's important to me. And when you come out of these religious cults that twist things, and sometimes it's very subtle, you know? It takes a lot of discernment to be sitting there when that indoctrination is washing over you every day. Like, and for me, you know, from the time I was born, before I was born, when I was in my mother's womb, that indoctrination just washing over me. That's why they are very astute about keeping you in attendance. And if you miss attendance, they're going to call you up and be like, what's going on? Where are you? Like, you need to be attending meetings. You need to be attending church services. Because when you miss those services, just like I did, like when I left, you know, I didn't get kicked out or break the rules or do anything wrong. I decided to leave of my own. And, you know, then I started wilding out a little bit or whatever. But, yeah, when I left and I wasn't having that washed over me all the time, I was like starting to ask myself questions. I was starting to, like, the reasoning was actually like coming back into my mind where I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And even I would have conversations with, because I still believed after I left. I still believed. I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I didn't feel like God saw me. I didn't feel like he cared about me. I never felt like he cared about me. The whole time I was growing up, if you watch my video, it's like 2 videos ago. Gosh, I'll put the name of the video. I don't remember what I named it, but I was dealing with voices and night terrors and sleep paralysis and, you know, dealing with getting screamed at and dealing with all these different things like my whole life. And I would call out on this Jehovah in my dreams, and like it never helped. It seemed to make things worse, which makes sense because I do believe that that's a demon god. I think that they mention Jehovah, and I've talked about this before. There's a book that I read because someone on my channel or someone on YouTube talked about it when I was watching like a Jehovah's Witness and Freemason link video, and the person had commented, when my grandpa passed away, I went up in his attic and he was a 33-degree Freemason, and he had this book, it's like The Lesser Keys of Solomon's Clavicle or something. And it talks about, it's super disgusting, it talks about summoning demons and how to like make magic wands, and like for real, it's talking about all this crazy stuff. And I was like, what? But they were like, it talks about how to summon demons, and Jehovah is one of the demons in there. And I think they were a Jehovah's Witness at the time, and they were like, I left the religion completely just from reading that. And I was like, no way. So I downloaded the PDF on my phone, and the book is not very long. It's like 100 pages or something like that. And I read the whole thing, and lo and behold, like, it's talking about doing rituals, it's talking about using magic to summon. And I was not a follower of Christ when I read this, like, disclaimer, because I would not have read this. And even as like a person who was in the world when I was reading this, I was like really grossed out. And I had the feeling that I should not be reading that, but I was like, I have to read it. So, you know, I think I was like praying to the universe to protect me or something stupid, but I knew that I shouldn't be reading that. And I didn't read it for any other reason but to like fact check what they were saying. And sure enough, yeah, Jehovah was one of the demons listed on that book. I don't know when that book was written. I think it was like early 1900s or something, or late 1800s. And yeah, I don't know, that kind of sealed it for me. I was like, and the crazy thing about that book, so I deleted the PDF off of my phone, and I was still, even after I came to Christ, I was still having all of these nightmares, night terrors, waking up in a cold sweat, waking up screaming, waking up crying, which had always happened to me. And like having sleep paralysis and all these different things. And my best friend was like, there's something you've got to still have. You know, they were like, check your phone, and like make sure in the files like that there's nothing. And I had already deleted that PDF like 2 years before this. And guess what was on my phone? The PDF of that book. And I was like, oh my Lord, like I cannot believe that has been on my phone this entire time. Because, you know, these things can be portals. I mean, that's a very demonic book. That's a very satanic book. And like, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't recommend you read that, because although, I mean, it's not like we have to be afraid of, but I don't know, just use your best judgment, cover yourself with the blood of Jesus. Like, if you are a Jehovah's Witness and you're like, I gotta read this to prove it to myself or whatever, like, I get it, but yeah, just make sure it's fully deleted off your device. Or even, you might be able to read something like that through the Internet Archive website. I use that website, because then you're not downloading anything onto your phone. But I don't know, it freaked me out a lot. I was like, ew, that's so disgusting. Like, this thing has been on my phone, like, hidden in the back folders for, like, 2 years or something. But, yeah, when I saw that name, I was like, okay. And then I think that was one of the things, because I wouldn't dive into the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. I still felt very protective, even though I left. I left essentially because I was just tired of not feeling or hearing anything from God, even though I was doing all these works and like being perfect and like putting on the show or whatever. I was still very miserable, cutting myself, wanting to commit, you know what, like, yeah, like I wanted to off myself, and I was just completely unhappy and miserable all the time. And there was like so much spiritual warfare, which I didn't know to call it that, but there was constantly all these things surrounding me that felt so dark and demonic. And I just didn't feel like God was anywhere in my life. I remember before I moved out, my dad started yelling at me for no reason, like just yelling at me and being really mean. And like, I left the house and I went to this park nearby, and I sat under the slide, and it started raining, and I just sat under the slide and cried. And I remember so specifically calling out to God and being like, where are you? Don't you care about me at all? You know, I literally was like, do you even care about me? Because here I was, like, I was being the perfect little Jehovah's Witness girl and doing all the things that were required of me. And I did love God, but I was like, why should I even love you when you don't even care about me? I had always loved him, sought after him, like, cried out to him, and as far as I could tell, he just didn't care at all about me. He was literally silent. And like, I just didn't understand it. And of course, because I'm calling out to the wrong God, I'm calling out to this Jehovah thing, which isn't God. And so of course, you know, of course, like, and it's not to say that actual God didn't protect me, because he was protecting me my whole life. He would do things, but I was just calling out to the wrong entity. And you know, because it was around, I say that the real God was protecting me because it was around this time I was cutting myself in the bathtub, and I was gonna do it. I was just gonna kill myself. I was done. My mom was making my life a living hell, just tormenting me all the time for no reason, starting fights with me, talking about me behind my back. I would start going upstairs, and I would hear her talking trash about me as soon as I left the room. Like, I didn't understand why me just existing there was such a problem for everyone, you know, and particularly for her. And I went in the bathtub and I was gonna do it. And I remember I sliced like right here. I still have the scar. I mean, I have all the scars, but I sliced and I saw the vein. I barely missed the vein. There was that vein. Sorry, this is graphic. But like it opened up and there it was. All I would have had to do was a little bit more, you know? And now I could see it, so it would be really easy. And I heard a voice say, "Don't do it. Don't do it." And I was like, yeah, you know, like, I can keep trying. Because I was so tired, you guys. I was just tired of constantly being, like, the problem for everyone. And constantly, specifically being the problem to my mom. When it's like, I literally wasn't doing anything. I was going to work, coming home, keeping to myself. Like, I was a good kid. Like, unless you think me self-harming makes me a bad person, like, I was in emotional turmoil, and that's the only way I knew how to cope. And I was deep into an eating disorder, yes, because that's the only reason I knew how to cope. Or it's the only way I knew how to cope. And I had sat my mom down and tried to talk to her about how depressed I was, and she completely just changed the subject. And so I was like, okay, like, she does not care about me. And I forgive my mom. I mean, I don't think that was her. I think she's being used pretty obviously now that I'm awake to this stuff. She's being used by the devil. And, you know, all those little demon voices. Dude, he is disgusting the way that he will use our own family against us and just trash talk us to their mind all day long. But, and it wasn't, I know my mom didn't hate me or something, because she wasn't always like that, like every single day. It would be kind of like a bipolar type thing where, like, some days she was really cruel to me, would just say really mean things to me, start fights with me, make me cry and all these different things. And then other days, like, we would have little date type things. She would ask me if I want to go to breakfast with her, and we would go to breakfast and just talk, and like, we would have a really good time. And I would be able to open up to her a little bit and be like, you know, maybe my mom does love me. Because I love my mom. Like, I wanted to have a good relationship with her. It's just, I think, you know, the spiritual warfare stuff was so heavy in my house. But yeah, I didn't think God cared about me at all, like literally at all. But he did, and I know he did because I'm still alive, even though like I said, I've attempted suicide. I've wanted to not be here a lot of times. Most of my life, I didn't want to be here. And even now, I struggle with just not wanting to be here, you know, because this place is horrible. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this world is not a comfortable place to be as a spiritually sensitive person. It's not. And that's why we lay our treasures up in heaven with God and wait for that beautiful day when he takes us home, you know? But, I don't know, yeah, I struggle with that, because I'm like thinking about also even, Abraham, like asking God. I feel like Abraham sometimes in that way, because I'm like, isn't there even one little piece, like, in my family's hearts? Like, you know, one little piece. If there's one little piece, like, will you spare them? You know, I really do. I ask him that. I'm like, isn't there, or even just one person? You know, like I said, my second to the oldest brother. I'm like, surely he has enough good. If I have enough good in me, of course it has nothing to do with us, like, having good or not, because none of us are good. But you know what I mean? I'm like, isn't there any righteousness in them? I know that they're not unrighteous people. I think that they're very hurt people. And I don't know, it's very frustrating, and I try not to like let these doubts come in, and just keep praying and having faith and standing on God's promise that he wants people to come to him. You know, it's not, even when people do go to hell, it's not. And, you know, I've struggled with that belief too, but I think there is a hell. The more that I think about it, I don't know if we know what it is, but it's not a place you want to go to. And being separated from God is not a place that you want to be at for eternity. So the more I look into it and pray about it and think about it, I do believe that there is a hell. And, you know, that's a difficult thing to come to terms with when you're raised a Jehovah's Witness too, because they don't believe in hell. And they think, even my family, like, they think that, you know, when a person dies and they're not a Jehovah's Witness, that they just die and they're gone forever and nothing happens. And I'm like, to me, I'm like, cool. Like, that doesn't sound like a bad deal to me at all. And that sounds fine, you know. But for me, I mean, there's just more at stake because I know the truth. I know. And I don't know how, see, they don't read the New Testament is the problem. They don't actually sit and read the Bible. And some Jehovah's Witnesses do sit and read the Bible. But, I mean, mind you, it's the changed version that they read. It's the doctored up version that they read. But if you open up the Bible, like, it talks about hell. And I'm rereading the New Testament. In Matthew, Jesus mentions it lots of times. And all of the Gospels mention it. Jesus did talk about it. And is very specific. And I don't know how, when I first read the New Testament, I just glossed over that mentally or something, because now rereading it, I'm like, it is right in here. And I had even talked to my friend who's not a Christian. And I was like, I don't know if I believe in hell, because, like, I just don't know. I don't even know if that's in the Bible or whatever. And then when I was rereading that, I had to message her, and I'm like, I'm sorry, look, it is actually in here, and I was wrong. And she was like, oh, okay, because she is curious about the Bible and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to mislead you on anything. And she's like, no, I appreciate it. She's like, and you're learning too. Like, she's cool. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that, I guess. And it is sad when people message me and they're like, what you're feeling is exactly what I'm feeling, because I don't want other people to resonate with the things that I'm going through, because it sucks. But at the same time, it helps me to feel less alone, because I'm like, okay, I'm not the only person who's going through this, and it's not just me, like, feeling this deep sorrow and, like, asking God these questions and waiting on him and wondering, is this even what he wants? And there's those YouTube channels and stuff that are like, you know, let them go. They, you know, as if they're just so undeserving. I don't know, man. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't. They are a part of me. And I don't want to lose them. I don't want to lose them. Now, like, I asked God, I'm like, are they so far gone in their pride and all these different things? Like, they're so far gone, there's no hope at all for them? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's possible, but it's not a sin for me to keep believing and asking. And maybe it's a no, maybe it is a no. And at some point, I will have to accept that it's a no. But unless God tells me specifically to not pray for them, like, I'm going to be praying for them every single day. And I'm going to come on here and, you know, even, I don't know, my sister has kids that are being raised in that too. And, like, I'm going to pray for those kids. You know what I'm saying? I know how difficult it is to be raised in something like that. And like, I just want freedom for them. I want freedom for them. I think that everybody deserves the freedom to use their own brain to think and to question things for themselves. And even me, I am a follower of Christ, but I still have a lot of questions, and I do have suspicions. And because we're in a fallen world, and it's so easy for people to just twist things. I don't just believe things at face value. Like, and I'm grateful that I've had the experiences that I've had, because even though it sucks, sometimes it sucks because I'm like, I tell God all the time, I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm suspicious of everything. I'm sorry that I'm such a suspicious person, but I think it's not a bad quality either. I think it can suck to be suspicious. Like, when you want to rest in the truth, when you want to rest in the knowledge and like be confident in things. This is why I always say, like, I love changing my mind about things. If I'm wrong, I want to change my mind, and I want to like pivot to find what's actually the real truth, because that's what I'm after. That's what I'm after. And I love the truth. I love the truth. I don't care what it is. It could be ugly. It could be painful. Good. Like, let's have that. The truth is, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. God himself is the truth. He loves people who love the truth too. He does. And like, I feel like he's told me before. Something he loves a lot about me is that I value and I love the truth so much. And I have given up everything in my life for truth. Literally given up everything in my life for truth. And that's not to say that I'm some, it's been really hard. And I'm like, how are other people just comfortable in lies, man? I was telling God this yesterday. I was like, I just hate lies. I hate lies. I hate being lied to. And I don't understand how other people can be so complacent to not care. To not care. And to just be like close-minded. And the devil wants that for you. Like, he wants you to be close-minded. He wants you to be ambivalent about the truth. But the truth is the most serious thing in this world, because if we're living in a world of lies, which we know we are, then what can be more important than the truth? I feel like Neo sometimes in the Matrix, just searching and seeking, and like, I've always felt that. I've always felt, from birth I felt that. Like, that there's something else, that there's something more. And I know that there's still so much that I don't know. I'm totally not perfect or fully awake by any means. I'm sure that there's other levels that I can get to, but I just rest in the knowledge that, I have Jesus, Yeshua, whatever his name is, and he did all the works. He did all the works, so I don't have to do the works. And when you come out of Jehovah's Witnesses, I think that's really important when you find Christ and you realize, like, God doesn't value your works. He doesn't. They're filthy rags before him. Which isn't to say we shouldn't do works. Like, we still need to do works, but they're not ever gonna save you. They're not good enough. You shouldn't do them to, like, come up to God wagging your tail like, look what I did, because he's gonna be like, girl, like, that's not, it's nothing. We do works because we have faith, but the faith part is more important than the works part. Because if you are without faith, then also anything you do is completely pointless. And I think that, I mean, that's a problem for me. The faith part, when you're a suspicious person, you know, I'm very aware, like, I'm like, please give me more faith, Lord, and like, help me to not have doubts. I have doubts in this world. I don't want to have doubts in God, and I don't doubt in God. I doubt sometimes if he wants certain things that I want, because I'm like, why is this desire in here? Why do I have this desire? Like, it says in the Bible, God will give us the desires of our hearts also. And I'm like, I think about that. You know, I think about that. And I don't think that it's just me. And I still have a ton of questions. Like, and I hope you guys know also, when I talk about things, like, I don't know everything 100%, you know? I don't. Like, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of things. I'm seeking the truth. I'm doing my best. And I'm always open to things being different than how, just like the hell thing. You know, if you would ask me a year ago, I would be like, there's no way that there's a hell, because I just don't believe that. And I think a big part of me just didn't want to believe that, you know? You don't want to believe that that's a thing that God would do to someone. But like I said before, God doesn't do that to you. It's a choice that you make, because he's stretching out his hand and all you got to do is take it. And a lot of people are just too prideful and they don't want to do that. So, I don't know. I think, like, we have to keep standing in prayer for our families. You know, I know, you guys maybe know Pastor Vlad and his wife Lana Savchuk. I like them. They were married and unable to have a baby for like 12 years. 12, I think it might have been more than 12 actually. Something like that. And, you know, they just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and they never gave up praying. They never gave up asking. They never gave up seeking. And now they have like a 1-year-old son. And it's the cutest thing ever. Like, Pastor Vlad will be preaching and just holding his baby. His baby's like chilling. It's really cute.
I wanted him before I met him. I longed for him before he even came on this earth. His position in my heart, he's never worked for this position, never qualified for this position. And this position is he's a son. It's been given to him because of his birth, not because of his efforts. His condition will always change. His position remains the same. See, you have to understand, in order to passionately pursue God, you must understand is that your position in God's heart will always be the same. You are God's child. He says, you didn't choose me, I chose you. The Bible says we love God because he first loved us. You'll never be able to outlove God. You are not the beginner of the love of God. He is the initiator. You're just the responder.
But I think about that, I'm like, you know, and even, gosh, who was it in the Bible that was infertile for all those years? My brain's not working. You know what I'm talking about. And she was old, and thinking like, it ain't gonna happen, you know, and then they did have, their baby. It was Isaac. Their son was Isaac. I think, right? I don't know. My brain. I need more coffee. This has coffee in it, but it's like a smoothie. Kind of tastes chocolatey. Okay, I think I'm gonna go though. Gosh, I always end up being on here for like an hour. I feel like I don't even talk about anything either. I'm just like rambling on, but yeah, I don't know. These are just some things that I think about. I am really trying to do all the research I can about God's name, because, you know, if I was the devil, that's probably what I would do. I would be like, okay, well, they can worship this person, you know, they can worship the man, the Word made flesh, God in the flesh, but I'm going to change his name. You know, it's not even going to be his real name. And I'm going to change in like the Jehovah's Witness Bible, like on a last note, where it will say in the Old Testament, because like I said, New Testament, the name Jehovah is not even in there at all. And they have interjected it where it says the Lord, and they put the false name of Jehovah many, 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 many times. I don't remember. It's a lot of times. It's like over 1,000 times or something like that, when it's not even in there. And you got to ask yourself why. Why is that? For me as well, and like I said, this is probably just part of like the trauma of my upbringing or whatever, but that name cringes me. It cringes me. And I'm like, ugh. Like every time I hear someone say it, it cringes me out. So I listen to that as well. But even in the Old Testament, where the name of God was put there, they've flopped it into that false name as well. I think it's very interesting. So God does have a name. I am pretty confident on that fact. Like, there's a name for him. I just don't know what it is. And maybe he doesn't have one. You know, that's possible too. Like, he's just like, you can just call me dad. Like, or you can just call me father. Like, I'm your father. And he is. He is our father. So, you know, it's not like horrible to call him that or anything. But also importantly, Jesus has a real name. And I think that one is important as well. Jesus has a real name, and it's not Jesus. And I think we as believers should kind of be concerned about these things because they matter. Like, it is actually important to use someone's correct formal name. But I'm praying that God will help me out on that one. And I don't know if I'm the only person who is like disturbed by these things, because even when I look it up on YouTube, there are people that are talking about it, but it's not very many. It's not very many. And why does it say in the Bible that even the very elect would be deceived if possible? What would we be deceived on? Would we possibly be deceived by being in Christ but calling upon a false name? You know, these are some legitimate thoughts and questions that I have, and I think we should talk about it. I think as believers we should talk about it. Because like I'm saying, Satan is so crafty and so sneaky. I don't think it's a salvation issue though. I don't know. But I think it's important. It's important enough that it bothers me for some reason. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just being overly sensitive about it. But I do ask myself, why does this bother me so much? If it's not a big issue, why does it bother me? So I don't know. I'm gonna leave it there, and hopefully we can have a discussion about it in the comments. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you guys. Thanks for chilling with me while I have breakfast. I hope wherever you are that God is blessing you and giving you an awesome day. Try to love on someone today. You know, we all have something we're going through. I think every single person that we meet, every stranger that we pass along the street, they're going through something, and you don't know the struggle that they have. So just be kind to one another and shine that beautiful light that Christ put inside your heart. In Jesus' mighty name. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.